What is up? This is Father E with Tex-Trek, and I am joined tonight with two fellow Trekkies. We're going to be talking about tonight's Short Treks premiere, the episode Runaway. And I'm joined with PJ.
Hey, my name is PJ.
And also with Starfleet Boy.
Hello, live long and prosper. This is Starfleet Boy here.
So we all obviously haven't had much time to process this. It literally just aired. But just what are your hot takes on this? Whoever wants to go first.
Can we talk about like the whole thing, like spoilers?
Yeah, it's only, this is going to be full. It's 15 minutes long, y'all. Just watch it and then come back and check this out.
Yeah, it's totally... this is spoiler laden, no holds barred, right?
Like, it'd be a really short conversation if it was going to be spoiler free. So,
my favorite part of the whole thing was that this girl Poe, she actually turns out to be like a very important historical figure. She invents the dilithium incubator that recrystallizes the dilithium, and at first you kind of think she's just like a criminal, I guess, and then you find out she's a lot more than what she appears to be.
However, Spock and Scotty are actually the inventors of dilithium recrystallization.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So in Star Trek 4, I was like, so that was the one thing that I was like kind of like wondering about, because I'm wondering if this is like Discovery's way of like either I just can't imagine that like the writers didn't do their research and know that. Like, it was very easy for me to remember that, and then also to find out, you know, if I'm like not like a Uber fan or anything like that. Maybe I don't know.
you're pretty casual.
So that's in Star Trek 4.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was after they came to the 1980s. It drained the dilithium crystals on the Klingon bird of prey, and that's why they needed the radiation from the aircraft carrier Enterprise that has a nuclear reactor, because they needed a power source to recrystallize their dilithium and make the trip back home to the 23rd century.
But the time they came from, they could already do that, right?
Well,
so that's a paradox, I guess.
I don't know of any other time when dilithium recrystallization was mentioned, but the thing here is that the character Poe was, I guess, going to keep that technology secret or keep it to herself or her planet. So Spock and Scotty probably had to, figure it out on their own from scratch.
That's where I was thinking is like, I wonder what there's two things that you could kind of take, I think, from that, which one would be probably that the Star Trek Discovery doesn't take place in the timeline that we are familiar with, or that the events of there's been a lot of time travel, right? So you could say that like that even going back in First Contact to Zephyr, to going back in time, they've altered the future. So maybe we're seeing the prime timeline, yes, but altered because of like all the shenanigans of time travel that have been going on. So I don't know.
I remember that now from Star Trek 4, and I completely forgot about it. So I mean, I'm a Star Trek fan, and I forgot about that. So is this like a retcon now, or are they just not obeying canon?
I don't think that dilithium recrystallization is that big of a deal to dictate the timelines or the continuity of a show. So I really didn't have that big of a problem with that. The issues I had with this was just kind of, I don't know, I was a little underwhelmed. I thought there were some cute moments that were fun, but where the hell did Tilly beam Poe at the end? Like,
yeah, the short is like very much a short film, and they just did this in 2 or 3 days tops, and they had very little time to include any other actors. This clearly takes place a little bit after the end of the 15th episode, but before they meet the Enterprise. So like that doesn't make any sense.
So just to break down what we saw, it opens with, I guess they're getting some supplies from another ship or something, because there's some work bees moving some cargo containers around in the shuttle bay, which I love. I love the Discovery shuttle bay. It always looks cool. Um, and then Tilly is having a phone call with her mom, who is being kind of a jerk to her. And then one of the cargo containers burst open, and it is Poe, but she kind of seems like a predator from the movie Predator, because
Yeah, there's like
she's invisible and
and
has
the
the
clicking
glowy,
and all that.
yeah, the glowy
There's
blood
like
and the clicking.
yeah,
Yeah, in the span of like a few minutes, she's like one character and then a completely different character by the end. Like you think she's like this primitive thing, and she acts that way, and then all of a sudden, like she's so smart and she's a genius, one of the smartest people on our planet. So
Yes, and it's kind of a classic trope that goes back to Shakespeare, or probably before Shakespeare. But the idea of having, the royalty, the monarch, disguises themselves as a commoner to move
Aladdin.
about. Yeah, it's been done a lot. Not so much in Star Trek, but um, and it turns out she's like a super smart engineer, and her and Tilly have that type of relatability to one another.
She's Zuri from Black Panther.
Yeah, she's the genius princess who is the most brilliant engineer alive
now. um, I was delighted by all the Tilly moments. Like I really did like the sequence where she's having a phone conversation with her mom, or phone. It's not, but it was like it felt that way. It's like you're talking on the phone with your mom type of thing.
The holophone, the hologram phone,
the hologram phone.
Did the mom remind you of any other Star Trek characters? Because she reminded me of one specificc but
of Luxana a little bit.
Yeah, just like
a little bit of that.
The mom from hell.
I thought it was also interesting how you never really saw her face, the mom's face. It kind of had this obviously intentional, but not 100% sure what the purpose of that is, but but it was interesting.
I think that's the most poorly. That's the worst part of that short is our conversation with our mother, because they don't want to cast an actress, and she's like back on. You never see her mouth move when you kind of see her from side on. It sounds very much like voiceover. It just doesn't sound good, and they've changed the holograms a little bit so that they don't flicker as much. They kind of look like ghosts now.
Well, maybe they have better bandwidth on their ships now.
Yeah, probably.
after the war.
Yeah.
And then I guess they have transwarp beaming too, because in like or whatever it's called, I forget the one in
Star Trek 09.
In 09, yeah. Because she says you're in the mess hall sequence, she says to her, you're very far away from home, but then all of a sudden she's within transporter range. I don't know, maybe she just beamed her out into space as you suggested earlier.
Well, we know that they were near another ship because those work bees were bringing on cargo from somewhere. So I'm guessing they just Tilly just beamed Poe back to that ship. And like Star Trek Discovery often does, there's another ship right outside the Discovery, but we don't see it.
We don't see it. Well, I think a lot of I hear you, and I think a lot of Star Trek kind of does that. Like there are instances where you never see the planet, even that they're like it can happen. I get it. And it's budget saving, and
well, most of the time on like the Next Generation, they would just reuse footage from Encounter at Farpoint with an Excelsior class starship. Like that same shot of the Enterprise and the U.S.S. Hood. I don't know how many times they reused it.
It's true. But I guess I'm really good at nitpicking, but it was just like little incongruities like that kind of just like perturbed me. The other thing was like as you mentioned, PJ, like she starts out really primitive seeming, like she's got spikes coming out of her back and she's like growling and things like that, and then she goes from that to extremely sophisticated at the end, and even standing tall, as Tilly mentions. And so I think that like that's not entirely out of the realm of possibility, but I just think it's like an odd decision. Like, you know, I mean, like I know that Klingons growl and stuff like that too, but usually when they're about to mate, you know, so who knows? But the other thing is I would have liked to have seen a completely like this would have been a great chance for them to do a completely weird looking, or like, you know, like for lack of a better word, just like a really alien looking alien. And I think that like the humanoid form factor is, I know there's like explanations for why it's so ubiquitous, but like here's a great opportunity to like create like a, you know, and then have that performance be computer animated or whatever, kind of a la, you know, Andy Serkis type thing.
Yeah, I hope they get to that point where they start doing that, because now's the time to put that in TV for the first time, like serious performance capture. And that's what I was thinking when I was watching this alien. I was like, she's so alien, but I would just wish like there was some more CG augmentation, or, and you know, it's a short, like it's not like that you're putting this character in the whole series and you have to spend millions upon millions of dollars every time you see this character. Putting it in a short would have been a good time to, you know, put that extra bit of money in there and just make it fully CG, just to show like, because in the Star Trek world, you read any of the books, there are seriously fully CG characters. There's a doctor on the Titan who's like a reptilian dinosaur looking guy. Like you never see those guys, but eventually, I guess.
Well, I'm going to disagree a little bit, because I kind of accept that for a TV budget, it is so much easier to have just actors in makeup. And funny that the Discovery, they've had some of the more alien looking aliens compared to other Trek shows, and then this is one of the more human looking aliens that they've had, when you think this would be a good opportunity to really go more alien. But you know, one of the things they do on Discovery is that I think sometimes the makeup gets, they are trying to make it look as non-human as possible, and it kind of eliminates the actor's ability to emote, and you don't really see their face. And so I think with something like this, they wanted us to connect to the character, and so they did want her to be like a little bit more, you know, human looking, at least like in the face, where we could see like, oh yeah, she's just a teenager, and kind of connect to her that way. But yeah, I mean, like it is kind of silly that all aliens just kind of look like humans with a little bit different facial structure, but they did explain that in the Next Generation and
The
Chase.
Chase.
There was some CG going on, like the eyes were cool, like how she had like two lids, it seemed like, one that went down and another one that went like, you know, sideways, and there are subtle things. So like they definitely spent time on the character. The other thing, I don't know if you guys felt this, but I just thought this character of Poe was very similar to Jayla from, was that her name?
Jayla.
Yes, yeah. Now that you mention it, yeah.
And I just thought like, oh, okay, well, so like, you know, I don't know, it just again, I thought it was a cool attempt. Do you guys watch Doctor Who?
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited for the new Doctor to get here Sunday.
Me too, but one of the things that I really loved about the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who, the 11th and 12th 11th to 12th Doctor era, was that in between the web-based episodes, or the ones that were only on the DVDs or whatever, however they aired them, I'm not really quite sure. And what I liked about them is that like they never really interfered with like like you never had to have seen them and you would still enjoy Doctor Who. But if you did see them, there were like really extraordinary and poignant moments that like connected you even further to the larger story. Like the one that comes to mind right now, and I won't spend too much time on Doctor Who, but the one that comes to mind is like when the 11th Doctor is on a date with River Song, and like two other of hims come into the like situation, and then they kind of like go back and forth, and they realize, oh, you're the one that's going to take her to this. And then it's a sad moment, because you know that's like supposed to be the last time, you know, she sees the Doctor before she meets the 10th Doctor. So I just wish that this I wish this episode, I felt like this episode was cool. Like, yeah, it's like just like how all of Star Trek Discovery is like really great production value and everything like that, but it doesn't really connect to the previous season in any way, except for like maybe a little bit with the whole Tilly command thing, like extending that story. And I didn't see any clues to the next season. Like, it doesn't feel like it's gonna, it didn't give us any like insight or clues that were obvious for the next season, unless what is it called, Zahara
Zahians.
Zahia.
Yeah, Zahia is the planet.
Yeah, unless Zahia, thank you, is going to be a part of next season.
Yeah, and I don't think it will be. But I think the value of this, and like I said, I was a little underwhelmed. It was just kind of meh to me. There's stuff in it I liked, but the value of it is, I think, just getting to see more of Tilly, and they confirmed that she's doing that command program that Burnham was kind of mentoring her on, and we got to see a little bit more of her mom, and there's mention of a stepsister. The mom is kind of like, well, your stepsister is so wise when it comes to stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably like some sisterly jealousness going on. So we got, I guess, a little bit more insight into one of the more popular characters of the show. So the short kind of rises and falls with that, in my opinion. But if you're a hashtag silly for Tilly like I am, then it was it had fun moments in there. What about the mess hall sequence when the food synthesizers? Because I guess they're not replicators yet, even though they seem to be the same thing. But when the food synthesizers are going crazy, and I guess that was kind of fun to watch. Tilly had like bacon and noodles and just like weird random food like hanging off of her. So
yeah, again, I don't know. I liked it. I didn't love it. I guess that's the thing, is I really wanted to love it. Hey, there's some people trying to chat with us on the chat. There's someone named It a Small World #1 says hi, and then Antonia Pine says sounds good, but I'm not sure what about. And then Antonia Pine just did some laughter thing, so we probably made Antonia laugh.
Yeah, that's my girlfriend, so
nice.
I'm used to her laughing at me.
That's awesome. Just like Captain Kirk, Antonia, your
girlfriend, the one that made me settle down and stop being a chasing captain.
That's awesome.
That's when you've taken your fandom too far, when the only chick you'll settle down with has to be named Antonia. But PJ, did you have any other thoughts about the short, or about the depiction of Tilly is kind of what I was focusing on? So you got anything to throw in on that?
PJ went mute.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Something happened.
Hello?
No.
Okay, we got you back now.
Okay, I don't know what happened there. You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I was saying, I think Tilly's one of the more well-developed characters from season 1, and it's just like Tilly all the way. It's no surprise how she acts. You can kind of just, I don't know, I forgot what I was going to say when I got distracted from the mute microphone. But it was okay. Overall, the thing was okay. I mean, it's nothing special. I would like shorts maybe next time around to connect more with the season, give us some clues. I was thinking, like, if they're going to do short treks, and I know they're keeping the new Klingons hush hush for now, maybe until Saturday, we might see some more, but just like a short with some traditional looking Klingons mixed in with the ones from Discovery, something to do with a little short about the augment virus or something like that. But these ones that are coming up, they look interesting enough anyway.
That's actually an awesome thing. Like, I think like if they did a short trek like that, where they just showed like different Klingons, and maybe even like the TOS era Klingons, like you said, like, what would be awesome about that is that, like, all of a sudden you would put to rest this like huge, because I think the Klingons are like one of the biggest sources of like rage or anger from like some of the more like you know, I don't know. And even myself, like I'm just like a little baffled because they look so different from like any other I mean, and the Klingons have been redesigned, don't get me wrong, like I get all that, but I think that would have been a great gesture to show this. Even so, if it never makes it on the show, like if we only ever see the new Klingons, the fact that we had like a short trek that had like this alternate version or that an explanation, if you will, I think would have gone a long way. That's a cool idea.
That is a good idea. Yeah, I would love to see some TOS style Klingons on a TOS style D7, just to know that they're out there somewhere.
Yes.
But, I've kind of accepted that the Discovery Klingons. I still don't think they look great, but I'm not all bent out of shape about it. But I am looking forward to see what they do in season 2. But yeah, I don't think these short treks are really going to set up much for season 2. They seem to just be small, self-contained stories.
Doug Jones talked about how the second season we'll get to know his family. I don't know if he was talking. I'm not sure if he was talking about just the short trek, but hopefully that short trek about Saru leads into something in season 2 where they have to go to his home planet for whatever reason. And I hope in that short coming up we see the predator species. That would be great.
Yeah, because the Kelpians are pretty badass. Like Saru, like he's strong. He can crush a communicator in his bare hand, and he's like super fast. So I want to see like these predators that make the Kelpians just be like live in fear their entire lives. Like the predators need to be really badass, beastly aliens.
What's the name? Do you know the name of do you know the name of Saru's planet? I know it was in a book that just came out like a few months ago.
Yeah, it's not Kelpia. No, it isn't Kelpia. You would think it was, but the name escapes me. I'll try to Google
maybe
it.
Spock. Maybe that's where Spock is.
It would have been cool if they never mentioned Zahia or the Zahians, and then we later find out that she's actually part of the predator class on that same planet, and they actually hunt Kelpians.
Yeah, ties all together. That'd be dark.
It was so dark, but they've already gotten pretty dark with Kelpians with the soup or whatever the Kelpian
the Gangula.
It was like
that would be pretty tasty. I would eat that with my chopsticks with Michelle Yeoh.
100%. I do want to say that like the ultimate highlight for me was Mary Wiseman. I think she's fantastic. Like, you know, she's definitely one of the reasons I really one of the reasons I have interest in Star Trek Discovery to begin with, because she's a compelling character. Her growth in season 1 was one of the things that were, I think, pulled off really well on the show. And she kind of like, I feel like she's like almost like an avatar for the fans, like kind of like, especially new fans. Like I can only, just her excitement and like the way she is, like her optimism and everything. Like she's the most kind of like Star Trek-y character, if you will.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that.
But she's also really grounded and seems like a real person.
Yeah.
Like she feels like someone who could exist in this day and age and would be like,
yeah, totally.
Holy shit! You invented a dilithium incubator. Like I noticed that they dropped the S-bomb again. So
oh yeah,
I'm sure someone's gonna be upset about that. But
no, man, it's like, it's kind of awesome. I was saying on my channel, we get into a lot of like kind of deeper kind of discussions, and one of the things I believe is that like Star Trek should have a component like, or a show that's geared towards a younger audience, and so that's one of the shames. One of the things that I think is a shame about Star Trek Discovery, even though as a 40-year-old man, I love adult Trek. Like, I think it's wonderful, but I wonder, like, like for younger audiences, like one of the best things about Star Trek: The Next Generation is that it was entertaining to my parents, but as an 11-year-old, it was also super entertaining to me, but it also.
Oh, did I lose you guys?
Yeah. I lost Starfleet boy. You were talking about you cut out there for a second, but you were talking about the next generation appealing to your parents and also to yourself as a kid.
Oh yeah, and then
hello. Yeah, I accidentally had the volume turned up on the phone. I want to see the chat.
Oh, gotcha. What I was saying is that like I think that like because Star Trek is so science heavy, it can be inspiring to kids, and it got me into science. Like, and I think that like it'd be wonderful. I think that now that Star Trek Discovery is successful, obviously, and the Captain Picard show is coming next, and I think that's definitely going to be, I hope, geared towards adults because I also want it to be an adult flavored show.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope that somewhere along the lines, and maybe in a new animated series like how Disney does with Star Wars, which could be like awesome for kids to watch, will come. So I'm hoping that something like that happens for Star Trek too.
Yeah, and they have confirmed that they are looking into developing an animated show. I don't know if it'll get green lit, but I would like to see that myself because we need more young blood in the fandom. There's like hardly any Star Trek fans under 30 years old, so it makes me wonder how sustainable the franchise is if we don't get a newer audience in there. But the fact that they are making so much stuff now with multiple shows in development, I think there will be things to reach out to the younger audience. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Picard show. And, you know, that Discovery really has to match up now because we can't have Worf making an appearance in the Picard show and him not looking like Worf, you know what I mean? Like, they really have to connect the dots now. I mean, if they're going to say that Discovery is Prime and it is connected to TOS, TNG, and the rest, that's what they have to do, and they have to start with season 2. So
yeah. Well, here's my thoughts on that. Is I think a lot of the inconsistencies come from the showrunners in season 1, Gretchen Berg and Aaron Harberts, who left halfway through season 2. So I really don't think it'll be until season 3 of Discovery that they're totally away from their influence that we can really say what the their efforts, where they say that eventually things will line up and look more canonical. You know, we won't really see that until season 3, I think, if we're going to see it at all. But
that's too late.
Well,
if the real change started happening after they left, and all of a sudden after they left months later, Glenn Harberts. No, not Glenn. Who's the guy from Face Off? Makeup guy? Not Neville Page.
Oh,
Glenn Hedrick.
Glenn Hedrick, yeah.
Glenn Hedrick. Then he comes out saying, you know, the fans are gonna be blown away by the new look, the new redesign. Obviously, Laurel's not gonna just have different makeup, but maybe something affects her to where they look different now. But they really need to explain some things. And, you know, they got Pike's uniform looking like, you know, TOS uniforms, but ish, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's all, everything is about fitting original canon into Discovery as opposed to the other way around.
Oh, yeah, it's a good
maybe
way
they need to flip that thought and start thinking, okay, now how do we actually, not talking about cardboard 60s sets and all that, well, apparently we're going to see the Enterprise bridge in season 2. And that's certainly going to piss some people off because it's not going to look anything like the TV show. It's probably going to look like the movie. Maybe I heard it might look like the bridge from Enterprise in Undiscovered Country, say, because that's as advanced as they could look at that time in the 90s, while, you know, TNG was going on at the same time.
To be fair, that is one of the best looking bridge sets.
Yeah, it's true. I love it. I think that visually things are just not, you know, they don't gel. They don't like match up to like, you know, what we're like expecting them to be. I think that like you could retain that TOS look and just like add shadows and like details and still have like a true, like still have a reference to those things that's really strong. Whereas on Discovery, I think there are like light references to TOS era design, and then there's all these like incongruities in technology, like holograms and things like that. Not to say that they weren't around in the TOS era, but we never saw them. So it's like, and in 3 seasons, it's hard to say that that stuff exists. But I guess I guess the thing is like I've just kind of like reconciled, because really like there's really no breach of canon at all that I can think of. Like, if you never saw a fake D7 battlecruiser, you wouldn't think that, like, if you just read a D7 battlecruiser appears and kidnaps Captain Lorca, you're gonna think in your mind it's the same D7 battlecruiser. So I think like that's the interesting thing. That's the tough thing about Discovery, is that like visually it's all cattywampus, but on paper, like if you're just listening, or if you're just like reading it, it's actually not. It doesn't breach canon at all. I think it's.
So don't blame the writers, is what you're saying. Like the writers are.
The writers are trying really hard. Yeah, I think it's easy to blame writers for everything, but like I really don't think that that's the case here. I think it's definitely a decision, for whatever reason, by the showrunners, to go completely bonkers with all the expected designs, and then there are some interesting like rumors. Like someone said that like I think who was it, John Eves, had to change the design of the Enterprise 20% in order to make it a legal. There's some like legality or something like that. But then CBS is like, no, that's not true. We own everything.
What I'm hearing now is that John Eves was he was instructed to make it look like the Enterprise, but like 25% different. But it wasn't actually like a legal mandate. But we have some more comments now.
Cool.
Antonia is still talking to us, saying that she wants to see more Saru and wanted to remind us that she is under 30. So she's one of the few Trek fans that are under that 30 years of age. And then It's a Small World One is also saying, personally, it could just be homage to old set, definitely not exact duplicate. Yeah, I think they're gonna try to make it echo the original set in some ways, but yeah, they're definitely not gonna do an exact duplicate of the Enterprise bridge. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We could definitely do a whole conversation about the visual continuity of Star Trek Discovery compared to the rest of the franchise. But just I guess to try to wind things down a little bit, do either of you have any other comments about Runaway that you want to get off your chest?
That girl, that Zahian, her full name is Mihani Ika Hali Kapo. I wrote that down.
That reminds me of, did y'all watch Pee-wee's Playhouse and the character Jambi?
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I kept thinking every time.
That's what I'm calling her from now.
Mechaleka hi, Mekahini honey ho. Mekahini honey ho.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The little short was okay overall, but I think it's probably the lesser of the rest. I think the one where the guy's like alone on the ship with the computer as his only friend, and the computer's going to turn out to be like Hal from 2001 and like go crazy and try to kill him or something. You guys hear me?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Yeah, and the other one, Saru, and I really want to see that one with Harry Mudd. That I think that takes place after episode 5.
So yeah, back to Poe's name now. Antonia is telling us that her name sounds Pacific Islander-ish, which I guess like Hawaiians have names that are a lot of many syllables.
Haniwaki Kipo.
Yeah, I didn't want to say something like that because I didn't want to offend any Hawaiians, but that's exactly what I was thinking. But
at least it's you didn't reference Mecca Kaliki Maka, which is the Bing Crosby song.
Oh yeah,
Mela Kaliki Maka. That's what.
But yeah, PJ, I agree about Calypso, the next short trek that's coming out in a month in November. is definitely the one I'm most excited about.
I'm really sad that people outside of the U.S. and Canada don't get these.
Yeah, it's really a bummer.
And you got it before we did.
It's just encouraging. Yeah, you're in Canada, PJ?
Yeah, they got it 30 minutes before we did.
It aired at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Because they were freaking out on Twitter. The Canadian Trekkies were about to like burn down CBS headquarters. They were if they didn't get short treks, and now they get it 30 minutes before the States.
Awesome.
What full there?
I love the Space Channel. Go ahead, sorry.
I do think that like it's still confusing to me because I'm not in the business, but someone was saying that like it really isn't CBS's fault. Netflix just chose not to buy it, which tells me like I wonder, did they see like the concept or did they see like footage and they were like, like, you know, I don't know. So that's kind of like, it's not worth the money you want us to buy it for or something, like, I don't know. So that's kind of an interesting thought to mull over. But ultimately, the worst part about that is that it's gonna leak onto the internet. People are gonna watch it, and like they could have been, you know, it could have been like, you know, an exclusive CBS thing, but like, you know, like CBS could have gotten more, I think, attention, and now people are just gonna, you know, rip it. So
yeah, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning in Germany right now, and there's a guy online trying to find a torrent of the short Trek episode. Like, yeah, he might have already downloaded it and started watching it. Just
totally, no, it's totally out there. Like, it happened. Yeah. So this was super enjoyable. I guess my final thought is that like I don't know what my expectation of short Trek necessarily was, but I don't think that this, you know, fully met it. I'm just eternally grateful that there is Star Trek. So it's like a kind of a hard thing to critique, you know, and be harsh on Star Trek, but like I do expect more from Star Trek at the same time. So I think like for me, this was a halfway hit. You know, like there were like a lot of things that I really liked about it, but then I was just like meh, the way that you say it described it, like about it overall.
Yeah, and I think we'll have a better idea of what to expect after we see Calypso in November. That seems to be the one that is has the most creativity going to it. You know, it is an original character on another ship. It is a story that the famous writer Michael Chabon, who I'm not really familiar with, but I'm told he's excellent. You know, like
he's a really great writer.
Yeah, and he came to the Star Trek Discovery people and was like, I really want to be involved in Star Trek. He is a writer. I think this is probably an idea that he might have had, you know, in his back pocket, thinking like, if I could ever write Star Trek, I want to tell like this one story. So it's actually the one that I have the highest hopes for. And if it is disappointing, then I'm going to be like, well, yeah, short Treks is just kind of like those, you know, cheap little short films that they put out to keep people interested between seasons, and not really that great. But you know, hopefully that's where we get the big payoff.
But isn't it a brilliant marketing strategy that they put one out a month for 4 months before the next season, just to keep the people in America subscribed to CBS All Access?
Yeah, you gotta keep that subscription every month. But
well, I went ahead and kept my subscription going because I definitely like want to keep funding the Star Trek machine or engine, if you will, you know, to turn. I'm very hopeful that like, you know, we're gonna get like that the show has the potential to get better. Like I've been doing this rewatch of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and like season 1, 2, you know, they're questionable, and then season 3 is where it really starts picking up. So who knows, that, you know, it might be the same path for Discovery. I think sometimes shows need to find their footing and before they really get compelling, and that's okay if they have the space and time to do that. That's awesome if they're not worried about like, you know, anything. And certainly if the show's doing well in terms of subscriptions, like, and more people like me who are just like, just keep Star Trek around. But I think that ultimately the Picard show is the thing that I'm like, just, you know, insanely excited about. Like, that's what I'm looking forward to, because I think I'm done with like going back into the past. Like, you know, I think it's great that we, you know, Enterprise was, I didn't actually finish watching it when it first aired. I like kind of got bored with it. So I'm rewatching it now, and it's a lot better. You know, the Star Trek Kelvin movies are interesting. They're like cool, like nostalgia, you know, like nostalgic, you know, things, but like really going forward is where I want to go with Star Trek. And I think that's what's exciting about Picard project.
Yeah. And going into you know, a period of Star Trek that we haven't seen on screen before, that kind of like the novels and Star Trek Online have kind of messed around with. But yeah, it is where no Star Trek show or movie has gone before. So.
Nice.
But I think that about wraps it up for Star Trek Short Treks Episode 1, Runaway. Just if either of you have anything you want to plug, or let us know where we can you know, check out what you might be working on or content you might have coming out.
Well, since I'm a very casual YouTuber, nah. No, seriously, it's Bow Trek. If you want to watch any of the few videos that I did by myself, which, you know, are just me shooting the shit, or with you when we had those discussions last year before Discovery aired. And just one more thing I want to say before I go. This episode, Calypso, seems like a Twilight Zone kind of episode.
Yes.
I would love this. I would love, not this season of Twilight Zone coming up, but maybe next season of Twilight Zone, they could have like a Star Trek crossover where it's like a completely independent Trek story, but done as a Twilight Zone episode, like a full hour. That's just an idea. I hope it never happened, but like,
well, the two properties have always been kind of connected. You know, they both have their 60s roots, and then they both got revived in the 80s, and then they have the one Twilight Zone show that came on UPN after Enterprise that didn't last very long. But
with Forrest Whitaker?
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, that's right.
Kind of go hand in hand. And I'm looking forward to the CBS All Access Twilight Zone.
Oh, yeah. Especially with Jordan Peele behind it. So
yeah. So Starfleet Boy, you want to let us know where we can check out your content?
Yeah, but before I do that, just one last thing. Michael Chabon did The Wonder Boys. It's a great movie with Tobey Maguire, and it's a novel, which is even better. So check that out if you get a chance. And then I saw him in a picture with Jean-Luc, with Patrick Stewart. So maybe he's writing for the Picard show as well.
He is involved in that show.
Yeah.
So
they've
hopefully
confirmed that.
Yeah, so I'm excited about Calypso, just like you guys are, because I think he is a pretty great writer, and so we'll see what happens there. Starfleet Boy is a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. You can find us on our YouTube channel. Just search for Starfleet Boy. We have a bunch of regular guests on, but we are also love to have new guests on. So I'd love to now extend the invitation to both of you guys. We've been talking actually about doing it for a while, so hopefully that'll come true soon.
I definitely need to get on there. And
I would love to have
are you gonna go straight into Deep Space Nine after you finish TNG?
Thanks for bringing that up. So actually there's a side project that I do with my friend Scott called Drunk Space Nine, but it's only in podcast form. So if you have a chance, please subscribe to Drunk Space Nine and check it out. We actually get drunk. So the show is in a hiatus right now because Scott moved to Las Vegas and we had a huge fight, but not like a real fight, but it's awesome because there's a little drama on the show. So stay tuned, but there's 50 episodes you can enjoy. And just like Starfleet Boy, the idea is to kind of watch the episode and then listen to our discussion and or participate in it or whatever. But Drunk Space Nine is an interesting show. I highly recommend it if you want something a little edgier and more and less serious. But yeah, so those are the two projects that I work on that are Star Trek related.
All right. Well, thank both of you for joining me tonight. Maybe we can do it again when Calypso airs in about a month.
I'd love to. This was really fun.
Yes.
And And yeah, live long and prosper.
And we'll also have some content Saturday or Sunday. I'm gonna try to put out a YouTube video talking about the New York Comic Con announcement. So everyone, please be sure to be subscribed to Tex-Trek, and you won't miss that. And we also have some more podcast episodes coming up with my regular co-host Dave, and we're coming up on our 47th podcast episodes. That's a big Star Trek milestone. Hit that magic number 47. Yeah. But nice. That's all I got. So everyone, as always, live long and prosper, y'all. Take it easy.
Peace.